At the tone, the time will be 10:32. Look at you all here. Oh my goodness, it's so great to see you guys all ready for class. Echo, Astua, Jen. Did I miss anybody? I actually have to scroll up. Can't believe it. Oh, Benjamin. Good to see you, honey. Have you heard you do a double take, wondering if a person was saying hi or calling for someone called Heidi? I have never thought of that until you said that. Saying hi to you sounds like I'm saying Heidi. Sometimes my friend Heidi comes over and then I'll be yelling at my dog Heidi and I'm like, not you, Heidi. Oh, good to see you guys. Happy Wednesday to you. It's probably afternoon where many of you are because we have Wisconsin, West Virginia or Virginia. I always forget. Scotty. I already said Wisconsin. Well, we have two from Wisconsin, two Scotty girls in the house. Oh man, I love Wisconsin. Tough people live there. And Benjamin is from my hometown state, Illinois. South Side, baby. Hey, never forget Lahaina, right? Never forget Lahaina. Got my Hawaiian shirt on. Got my Hawaiian coffee mug here. Man, I'm all studied up for this course. Guess what this one is on? We're going to read today about checks and balances. Am I the only one that thinks, just in bullet points quickly, the narrative, the truth? You know, when we've studied about Centralia here, right? And that was like one of the first cities that was pushed out, and the whole town just bellied up and didn't fight Washington, D.C. They just let them ramrod them out of the town. There's two people that live there now. We have Paradise, Santa Rosa, Lahaina. I think Texas got hit. And, you know, when we learn about all the old fires at the turn of the century, and then all the mental wards, it really freaks me out because I'm like, man, one of us is going to end up in a mental ward. So, and I hope it's not us, you guys. I hope it's not us. So these are the things I think about lately. Also, I hope that we all make it through 2024. You know, I mean, we're in some very perilous times here, but we have hope. My hope is not in this world. My hope is not even in the knowledge that we're acquiring here. My hope is in you, God. You're the only one that can save us right now. And so we just keep learning and growing and knowing. And also around here, we want to apply things. So a lot of people are talking. After 4 years, they're still talking about the same things. And I mean, there is a place for that. People do need to have a place where they can come and ask questions and talk, but we're past level 6 around here. I'm going to work on that little wake up chart that I have. You know, I don't think I have it in here because I have the notebook by my bed right now, but we're past the wake up level 6. We are moving into being effective in our communities, right? Echo, I loved your comment. You know, and we're prayer warriors here too. And I know you guys pray, and I hope you were all praying for Devil Dog's mama yesterday. I said many prayers for her. I hope she's doing good. We lift each other up. I pray for all of you every day in the morning. I do my 3 chapters. I listen to, and I pray for our country. And I hope that we are making a difference in ways that we can't see yet, because I do believe in that. I believe in the invisible principles. There's a lot of those, and we do need to have us a good Bible study. Polly, I'm waiting on you. I'm waiting on my brother-in-law so that we can start that study, Be Ye Transformed. But I've also been thinking right before I get in this study, in this long little intro here, that I am going to have to start just doing longer streams where I am playing these meetings that are going on all around Humboldt County so we can discuss them. I can't keep up with them, but I thought, hey, maybe if I, you know, just play these meetings and play the stand-up people, and we could discuss these things, because you guys know a lot of the same stuff is happening in your neighborhood as well. And so, you know, it wouldn't hurt to just play these things. I got the idea. I watch that Good Logic guy sometimes. Well, I caught him on Lou. Hey, Garrett, good to see you. I caught Good Logic on Lou, And I realize, what he does, I kind of like his style in that he's been going over the court cases, particularly in New York lately. And, he'll read them because he was a lawyer. He's a lawyer, whatever. And, he'll discuss them for hours. He's on. And I'm like, man, you know what? I should do that with Humboldt County. I should just stream the stand-up people. I try to preview it because, a lot of the meetings are very long and boring, but that is where the gold is. And, yesterday, Humboldt County, just real quick, Humboldt County, in the Board of Supervisor meeting, they appointed a new position, an act director, and his main job is going to be code enforcement. And he came with a presentation and all kinds of plans. And it's just like, wow, this guy really, for just getting appointed, he sure has a lot of plans for us, Humboldt County. I do hope you pay attention to the new appointed positions that they have put in place, like the mayor of Arcata, who got appointed to be the director of public health. She has a degree in communications. So yeah, this whole thing is about checks and balances today. And that's what's rolling around in my head. We have a lot of checking and balancing to do. So let's get into our study. Those are just my random thoughts. You can't tag anyone. Yeah, YouTube has been real Nazi lately. I also cannot, on this channel, in my description box, it will not allow me to post links. They're getting tougher and tougher. Facebook is constantly like, your feed is lower. You're not a good community member and all this stuff. It's like, don't let it bother you. It's just more proof of the tyranny and censoring. And you must be right over the target, Garrett. You must be right over the target. Just hit the road soon. First stop, Alabama. All right, road tripping. Sweet. Oh, that was Ostawa saying that YouTube will not let you tag anyone. Huh? Interesting. Yeah, we are persecuted for thy sake all day long. Whose sake? The truth. The sake of truth. Righteousness. God. We are killed all day long. We are like sheep as led to the slaughter. Yay, us. It's all right, though. I'd rather be in the truth and persecuted than being steeped in lies, living in luxury. Amen. All right, let's get right to the quiz. We're going to be going over the principle 16, which was Monday's, which says here, the government should be separated into 3 branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. And I wasn't able to snap a picture before you got half the answers, so welcome to my notes again. So here we go. Name the 3 type of governments discussed anciently by philosophers. I need some glasses here. The 3 types of governments that were discussed by historians that took the time to study and do the work and try to figure out, what's government here? They came up with these 3. There's monarchy. That is a rule by one single powerful person. There is a aristocracy, which is run by wealthy families. And there is democracy, where all people's vote counts. Everyone has a voice. What famous Greek historian first proposed a mixed constitution? Polybius. And I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Mr. was saying it a little differently than I said it. Polybius. I don't know. Polybius. What advantages did he see in a rule by one? Well, in a rule by one, you have efficiency for the sake of time in a crisis. You don't have everybody having to imagine if, firefighters had to rule like a democracy. No, I don't want to do the left. You do the left. Just all this chaos. One person's in charge. Boom. Get it done. Right? I could see that advantage as well. 4. What advantage did he see in a rule by a wealthy few? He saw that in a rule by a wealthy few, there was protection of property and wealth. 5. What advantage did he see in a rule by many? Representation of all people. Everybody has a voice. We love that, don't we? We do. We love that. Name the Frenchmen of the 18th century who picked up these ideas and showed how they could really work. Excuse me. Charles D. Montesquieu is his name. Excuse me. What major difference did he have in his plan? Whoops, now I can't read you my answers there because they're here. The thing about Montesquieu was also, before I answer this, I want to say, no, let me just answer it. What major difference did he have in his plan? The judiciary needs to be separate. There is no liberty when the legislative and the executive are joined with the judiciary, because then you have the same people making law saying how it should be applied. And the judge, therefore, would be the legislature. Now, before I move on, I want to say this. So Polybius was the first to study the three types of governments and lay out, we have monarchies, aristocracies, and democracies. And it was 1700 years later that Charles D. Montesquieu picked up that concept. And then our founding fathers picked up that concept and gave us the government that we have, which is all three of these in one. Basically. 8. What question concerning the presidency was much debated in the Constitutional Convention? You guys know this one. How many presidents there should be? Some suggested 3, one for the North, the Middle, and South. Some suggested, I think there was even up to 12, maybe 13, one for each state, president for each state. Well, we have governors now, right? But when Montesquieu's idea was brought up about this 3 governments in one, they settled on one president and thought that that executive power should be with one person, one man. 9, who pushed for the separation of powers doctrine before most people would accept it? That would be John Adams. 10, what state did he finally get to accept it? Massachusetts, baby. Scrimshaw. If you're here, shout out to Scrimshaw. Do you feel alone? She's the only one in Massachusetts. It's okay, girl. You're not really alone. 11, what did he predict about how people would remember him in history? He predicted there would be no monuments resurrected for him, that he would not be remembered in a great light. I think he was wrong. 12, Montesquieu's formula for government could be said to provide a division of power that is separate but equal. And that's where the 3-headed eagle visual was laid out. 13, what great prediction did John Adams make about America that has come to pass? That there would be 300 million freemen in this country with no king over them. So that is our study on that. Yay! All done that. Now we're going to move on to the reading. Uh-oh. What's going on here? Got a jammed up phone. I wanted to just turn off my notification or silent mode on. Okay. All right. Let's get to the reading. It's about 10 pages today, but you know, these pages are really short, you guys, and some of them have pictures, and hopefully you enjoy the read. Do your chores or whatever. I really appreciate you all who come here and listen and learn with me. I know that you're connecting your own dots, and it's awesome, isn't it? Isn't it great to hear the old history? Isn't it great to hear how our government is supposed to operate? It doesn't necessarily do it, but if you're ever wondering, like, what's the problem with America today? The problem is we're not ruling. The problem is you have tyranny on one side, anarchy on the other, and the people's law is right in the middle. And this is our job. And this is our very important work that needs to be done. We are supposed to be involved in government. Everybody, all of us, we all have a vested interest in our future. We all have a duty and obligation to the children. So here we go. We have a quote on the left from George Washington. The necessity of reciprocal checks in the exercise of political power. The 17th principle is a system of checks and balances should be adopted to prevent the abuse of power. It must have been astonishing to John Adams to discover that after he had sold the people on the separation of powers doctrine, some of them wanted the separation to be so complete that it would have made the system unworkable. These people who took this puritanical view opposed the adoption of the Constitution on the grounds that it did not make the separation of power between the three departments complete and absolute. They missed a most important factor in Montesquieu's presentation. He said that each of the departments was to be separate in its functions, but subject to the checks of the other two departments in case it became abusive in performing these functions. John Madison explains checks and balances. It is interesting that James Madison had to spend 5 Federalist Papers, numbers 47 to 51, explaining that the separation of powers between the executive, legislative, and judicial departments should not be absolute, but should make allowances for a built-in system of checks and balances. He said the trick was to separate the powers and then delicately lace them back together again as a balanced unit. Madison conceded, however, that keeping the three departments of government separated was fundamental to the preservation of liberty. He wrote, "The accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary, in the same hands, whether of one, a few, or many, and whether hereditary, self-appointed, or elective, may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny." Madison then proceeded to explain how Montesquieu recommended that the powers be separated as to function, but coordinated for the prevention of usurpation or abuse. Note his opening tribute to Montesquieu. The oracle who is always consulted and cited on the subject is the celebrated Montesquieu. If he be not the author of this invaluable precept in the science of politics, he has the merit at least of displaying and recommending it most effectively to the attention of mankind. In the Federalist Papers, number 47, Madison indicated that even those states which demanded an absolute separation of powers in the federal constitution employed a blending of power in their own state constitutions. He pointed out that just as those safeguards were necessary for the states, they were equally important to include in the federal constitution. In fact, he said, "I shall undertake to show that unless these departments be so far connected and blended as to give each a constitutional control over the others, the degree of separation which the maxim of Montesquieu requires as essential to free government can never in practice be duly maintained." Blending does not mean usurping. Notice that the purpose of checks and balances is a constitutional control in the hands of each department of government to prevent any usurpation of power by another department or abusive administration of the power granted to it. This blending does not, therefore, intrude into the legitimate functions of each of the departments. As Madison explained it, it is agreed on all sides that the powers properly belong to one of the departments ought not to be directly and completely administered by either of the other departments. It is equally evident that none of them ought to possess, directly or indirectly, an overruling influence over the others in the administration of their respective powers. It will not be denied that power is of an encroaching nature. Let me repeat that. It will not be denied that power is of an encroaching nature, and that it ought to be effectually restrained from passing the limits assigned to it. Restrained. I'm always looking for these key words that are verbs, right? The next and most difficult task is to provide some practical security for each against the invasion of the others. Just how difficult this task turned out to be is demonstrated in a number of problems which have arisen in our own day. The failure to use the checks and balances effectively has allowed the judiciary to create new laws called judicial legislation by pretending to be merely interpreting old ones. Failure to use the checks and balances has also allowed the president to make thousands of new laws instead of Congress by issuing executive orders. It has allowed the federal government to invade the reserved rights of the states on a massive scale. It has allowed the legislature to impose taxes on the people never contemplated by the founders or the Constitution. The whole spectrum of checks and balances needs to be more thoroughly studied and more vigorously enforced. Madison appropriately anticipated that parchment barriers in the Constitution would not prevent usurpation. Each department of government has the responsibility to rise up and protect its prerogatives by exercising the checks and balances which have been provided. At the same time, the people have the responsibility to keep a closer watch on their representatives and elect only those who will function within the constitutional boundaries. Another verb. I mean, there's been a few, but keep a closer watch. Checks were designed to protect the will of the people. All of these aberrations in the administration of government have done violence to the intent and desires of the people. The founders felt that if the checks and balances as originally provided were to prove inadequate, the remedy should be a device by which the people might more directly influence the power centers of government so that decisions would be more in harmony with their wishes. James Madison said it this way: as the people are the only legitimate fountain of power, and it is from them that the constitutional charter under which the power of the several branches of government is derived, it seems strictly consonant to the Republican theory to recur to the same original authority whenever any one of the departments may commit encroachments on the chartered authority of the others. But how do the people protect themselves? There must be adequate legal machinery provided so that the representatives of the people have more direct input to project the will of the people when the officials of government are ignoring it. Madison discussed the various overseer devices which have been considered in the past to keep the departments of government within their constitutional channels. None had proven particularly successful. Pennsylvania tried out a council of censors to enforce its constitution. The council was effective in determining what violations had occurred, but was powerless to remedy the evil. Others suggested that the people be allowed to vote on critical constitutional issues at specified times. However, the tremendous emotional anguish displayed during the ratification of the U.S. Constitution demonstrated that this was not something to be undertaken very often. Said Madison, the danger of disturbing the public tranquility by interesting too strongly the public passions is a still more serious objection against a frequent reference of constitutional questions to the decision of the whole society. Notwithstanding the success which has attended the revisions of our established forms of government, the ratification conventions, and which does so much honor to the virtue and intelligence of the people of America, it must be confessed that the experiments are of too ticklish a nature to be unnecessarily multiplied. I think they're talking about enforcement, but even I don't know what I'm reading sometimes. I mean, I do. I'm just saying. It's a lot of words. It's a lot, you guys. It's a lot to try to understand, to comprehend there. Not something to be undertaken very often. In the end, Madison contended there is no better device to curb the departments of government than the internal machinery of checks and balances provided in the Constitution as written. Said he, the only answer that can be given is that as all these exterior provisions are found to be inadequate, the defect must be supplied by so contriving the interior structure of the government as that its several constituents parts may, by their mutual relations, be the means of keeping each other in their proper places. What the founders finally devised is recognized as an ingenious device when properly implemented. The fact that it has sometimes fallen into neglect in recent times does not detract from the fact that it is still the most effective way to maintain the American eagle in the balanced center of the political spectrum. The Constitution made the departments separate as to their assigned function, but made them dependent upon one another to be fully operative. As we depicted in an earlier section of the book, the symbolic American eagle has 3 heads, but they operate from one neck. Reuben Clark Jr. explained, the framers separated the 3 functions of government and set each of them up as a separate branch: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. Each was wholly independent of the other. No one of them might encroach upon the other. No one of them might delegate its power to another. Yet, by the Constitution, the different branches were bound together, unified into an efficient operating whole. These branches stood together, supported one another. While severely independent, they were at the same time mutually dependent. It is this union of independence and dependence of these branches, legislative, executive, and judicial, and of the governmental functions possessed by each of them, that constitutes the marvelous genius of this unrivaled document. The framers had no direct guide in this work, no historical governmental precedent upon which to rely. As I see it, it was here that the divine inspiration came. It was truly a miracle. The heart of our book. The original intent of the founders. As it turned out, the American founding fathers achieved a system of checks and balances far more complex than those envisioned by Montesquieu. These included the following provisions. 1. The House of Representatives serves as a check on the Senate, since no statute can become law without the approval of the House. 2. At the same time, the Senate, representing the legislators of the states before the 17th Amendment, serves as a check on the House of Representatives, since no statute can become law without its approval. 3. A president can restrain both the House and the Senate by using his veto to send back any bill not meeting with his approval. 4. The Congress has, on the other hand, a check on the president by being able to pass a bill over the president's veto with a 2/3 majority of the House. 5. The legislature also has a further check on the president through its power of discrimination in appropriating funds for the operation of the executive branch. 6. The president must have the approval of the Senate in filling important offices of the executive branch. 7. The president must also have the approval of the Senate before any treaties with foreign nations can go into effect. 8. The Congress has the authority to conduct investigations of the executive branch to determine whether or not funds are being properly expended and the laws enforced. 9. The president has a certain amount of political influence on the legislature by letting it be known that he will not support the reelection of those who oppose his program. 10. The executive branch also has a further check on the Congress by using its discretionary powers in establishing military bases, building dams, improving navigable rivers, and building interstate highways so as to favor those areas from which the president feels he is getting support by their representatives. 11. The judiciary has the check on the legislature, though, through its authority to review all laws and determine their constitutionality. 12. The Congress, on the other hand, has a restraining power over the judiciary by having the constitutional authority to restrict the extent of its jurisdiction. 13. The Congress also has the power to impeach any of the judges who are guilty of treason, high crimes, or misdemeanors. 14. The president also has a check on the judiciary by having the power to nominate new judges subject to the approval of the Senate. 15. The Congress has further restraining power over the judiciary by having control of appropriations for the operation of the federal court system. 16. The Congress is able to initiate amendments to the Constitution, which, if approved by 3/4 of the states, could seriously affect the operation of both the executive and judicial branches. 17. The Congress, by joint resolution, can terminate certain powers granted to the president, such as war powers, without his consent. 18. The people have a check on their congressmen every 2 years, and on their president every 4 years, and on their senators every 6 years. The importance of preserving the founders' system. President Washington felt that the separation of powers with its accompanying checks and balances was the genius of the American system of government. The task was to maintain it. In his farewell address, he stated, It is important, likewise, that the habits of thinking in a free country should inspire caution in those entrusted with its administration to confine themselves within their respective constitutional spheres, avoiding in the exercise of the powers of one department to encroach upon another. The spirit of encroachment tends to consolidate the powers of all the departments in one, and thus to create, whatever the form of government, a real despotism. A just estimate of that love of power and proneness to abuse it, which predominates in the human heart, is sufficiently to satisfy us of the truth of this position. The necessity of reciprocal checks in the exercise of political power by dividing and distributing it into different depositories and constituting each of the guardian of the public weal against invasions by others has been evinced by experiments ancient and modern, some of them in our country and under our own eyes. To preserve them must be as necessary as to institute them. Repeat, to preserve them must be as necessary as to institute them. If, in the opinion of the people, the distribution or modification of the constitutional powers be in any particular wrong, let it be corrected by an amendment in the way which the Constitution designates. But let there be no change by usurpation. For though this, in one instance, may be the instrument of good, it is the customary weapon by which free governments are destroyed. The founders' device for peaceful self-repair. During nearly 2 centuries that the Constitution has been in operation, it has carried the nation through a series of traumatic crises. Not the least of these has been those occasions when some branch of government became arrogantly officious in the administration of its assigned task or flagrantly violated the restrictions which the Constitution placed upon it. As President Washington indicated, there is a tendency for some of this to occur continually, as is the case in our own day. But when it reaches a point of genuine crisis, there is built-in constitutional machinery to take care of it. By way of contrast, we have scores of nations which claim to have copied the United States Constitution, but which failed to incorporate adequate checks and balances. In those countries, the only remedy when elected presidents have suspended the Constitution and used the army to stay in power, has been to resort to machine guns and bombs to oust the usurper. This occurs time after time. What the founders wished to achieve in the Constitution of 1787 was machinery for the peaceful means of self-repair when the system went out of balance. Watergate. One of the most dramatic illustrations of the peaceful transfer of power in a time of crisis was in connection with the Watergate scandal. A president was found to have used his high office for purposes which were beyond the scope of his authority and outside the ramifications of legal conduct. Under threat of impeachment, he resigned. At the time, he was Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Services of the United States. He made no attempt to use these military forces to keep himself in power. In fact, under the American Constitution, it would have been useless for him to have attempted it. The transfer of power was made quietly and peacefully once the issue came to a point of decision. That was Richard Nixon. The blessing of domestic tranquility. Some of us have had to travel or live in nations during a time of turmoil and revolution. Even one such experience will usually convince the most skeptical activists that there is nothing to be gained and a great deal to be lost by resorting to violence to bring about political change. Once a constitution has been established and the machinery developed for remedy or repair by peaceful means, this is a most intelligent and satisfactory route to pursue. It requires more patience, but given time, the results are more certain. To solve problems by peaceful means was the primary purpose of the United States Constitution. There you have it. There you have it. Hey, Carolina, good to see you, honey. I want to understand 2020, something about bankruptcy. Any link? There was a president and executive order. Yes, I have a link. They just posted that on the National Assembly website. The only way I can find it is I go to Stand Up Humboldt first. I do have a link for the National Assembly website there. I believe Sean had me go to the forum, and Destry had posted it. Let's see. Oh, I thought I just posted it recently. Well, I know when I was streaming with Sean the other day, we posted it, and it was here. But I don't see it here now. Oh, let's see, May 28th. Oh, it's I think these are not in order as dates. Okay, interesting. Yes, I shared that. Was here. Oh yeah, they are in order. That was June 2020. I shared it on my Facebook. I shared it on my Facebook. Let me get that up. I don't know why I can't find it. I should be able to find these things quick and easy. But I do not always. And I'm a big overshare, so it's going to take me a minute. Oh, the Killdozer anniversary was yesterday, wasn't it? I'm an oversharer. Big time. I overshare things. Maybe it was too long ago. That document was signed by Trump in 2018, republished by the Assembly just recently. And I'll try to find it for you. Because I'm an oversharer. It's probably here as well. Prison barge out there on the East Coast somewhere. Lasers cutting down trees. Don't let anybody tell you there's no such thing as dues. You know, I will not hear from people who do not research anymore. People who are getting their information from mainstream media are not researchers, okay? They're being spoon-fed. They're red diaper doper babies. Who knows where that came from? Who's got that? Who first coined that term, red diaper doper babies? Come on, I know you know. Red diaper doper babies. Come on, where is this? I told you I was an oversharer. Because I'm an oversharer. Oh man, that Challenger astronaut's alive. This guy was calling out the county commission in Brevard County, about all the Challenger astronauts still being alive, naming their names and their jobs. I mean, come on. In your face, okay? In your face with the truth. And yet people still won't believe. This is the document here, Astua. I really can't give you much more information about it other than, you just have to read it. And, it probably won't let me. It's too long. Yeah, it's too long. Dang it. Why does it do that? Let me see. Maybe this one will be shorter. Yeah, okay, this one might work. Sometimes you just have to make it work. This one should fit in one line here. And there you go. Yes, the corporation, so this is the narrative. So Biden, potato head, empty shell of a man, Joseph Biden, who is not even the real Biden. And I can tell you that based on one video that I've seen and one picture. When he took that jab, he rolled up one of his arms, and it's the same arm that he has a tattoo on. Plus, you can see the masks, the signs of the mask wearing and all this. And that's neither here nor there. Who is playing him and all that? It doesn't matter. What matters is he's an empty shell. And all of his agencies and everyone who he gives his directives to are part of this corporation. And that is not the we the people. That is not the good America. Okay. That is the company that took over and has us all fooled into thinking we got to pay our taxes to it. It's giving all your money to Ukraine, Taiwan, China, everybody but you, Israel, migrants. If you cannot see that by now, then perhaps you're just coming awake. But I guarantee you, you can find that evidence that there is a corporation of the United States of America. It is a company. And that's who these people are in Eureka at the city council, the board of supervisor. They're not we the people. We the people are absent. Okay. We the people are not united and standing and self-governing at all. We're just sitting around going, well, I wonder what's going to happen. Oh, I wonder what's going to happen. Let's make it happen. Why don't we just make something happen instead? I know I'm a huge dreamer, but we have a chance here. We have a shot at self-governing here. I'm never going to give up on that till I'm dead. I don't want to be ruled. I don't want to be a slave. Never have liked listening to other people tell me how to live my life. I'm a free woman. I'm not giving my power to nobody. Save God. And these people that don't believe in God, they can't believe in our Constitution, they can't unite, they can't self-govern, they can't believe in any of this because they're right off the bat deceived that there is no God. Oh, for thousands of years, the people have known in their heart there's a God, and they've been searching and want to worship God. There's a part of us that is made to worship. And it's obvious people, when you don't worship God with it, the first one that's going to be worshiped is self. I'm God. I'm on the throne. You know, it's frustrating because only the godly people are going to get this done. People that don't believe in God, you're not even welcome to self-govern. You're a disruptor. You're not going to help us come together because at every turn you're going to be, oh, that's God, that's Christianity, whatever. The founding fathers are Freemasons. All this stuff is just meant to keep you out of self-governing. All of it. This was written on May 4th, 2020 from the White House, Washington, signed by Donald Trump. It says here, U.S. federal person Roger Allen Moore, RAAJ, and Maxim Moore Raphael, taxpayer ID, descendant social security number written on there, must be the head of the corporation. That's all I can tell you. See United States Department of Treasury, Internal Revenue Service Forms 2848, Power of Attorney and Declaration of Representatives, and 56, Notice of Fiduciary Agent, sent December 1st, 2019, United States Postal Certified Mail. This is called receipts. To whomever the United States business entity this may concern, who commercially operates on United States public markets and accepts or exchanges in United States currency while providing goods and services or services to U.S. customers, consumers, and everyday commerce. This is to all of you that are tied in with the Biden administration. Agents. The above mentioned U.S. federal public person has a prepaid non-obligatory commercial debt obligation arrangement with the United States, all caps, in relation to 12 U.S. Code 95. Regulation of transaction in foreign exchange of gold and silver, property transfers, vested interests, enforcements and penalties, and other public policy on U.S. debt. Your business entity is federally bound to United States, all caps, and U.S. public debt of obligations by way of your IRS, employer identification number, under the U.S. Department of Treasury, and your Federal Reserve business bank account. Your business is hereby ordered to itemize whatever and however many commercial products and or services in which the above U.S. federal public person wishes to commercially acquire, adjust the bottom line total cost amount to zero, and release the items. Provide a receipt to the above U.S. federal person by way of its duly authorized representatives, Raj Raphael, sue jure de jure improper person, and retain the record of the transaction to settle with your federal tax obligations with IRS as the entire overall transaction is only a commercial accounting matter of what the bankrupt United States owes its true creditors, which is the American people, in direct relation to the Borrowed Gold and National Banking Emergency Act of 1933. All commercial public debt obligations, while transacting all business within the United States, all caps, commercial markets belong to the United States, all caps, as the United States, all caps, is the true obligor in each and every U.S. commercial transaction. Any willful dishonoring and or non-settlement of United States commercial public debt obligational matters by any duly bound commercial business entity within the United States will result in federal prosecution to the fullest extent possible. I would just call this the trump card. I would just call that the trump card. So, you know, a lot of people think, oh, everything's going to get better when Trump comes back. I mean, he can do some things, but he cannot do everything. And he's indicated more than once, it's going to take more than one man. I've given the power back to you, the people. This is our baby. This is our time to shine. These people are running out of money. If you pay attention to any, meetings that are going on, and I'm going to start streaming them. You can hear them. They're out of money. They're talking about a $10 million deficit in Humboldt County. The grants writers are running out of money. I don't think the feds are ponying up the money for the grant programs. Now, they can still get some of it, but what I'm hearing is they're running out of money. And it sure took long enough. A red-haired person with massive popularity said Mr. Potato doesn't know he's alive and doesn't even look like himself. He's shot. He said he's shot. People could stay in those rabbit holes a good long time. There's a lot of things that we could get ourselves occupied with. There's a lot of tantalizing, juicy bits out there for me. The old world architecture, giants, Anunnaki, aliens really rule the earth. They're trying to suck our energy out. There's a lot of good ones out there, believe me. I've entertained most of them for a short time, and then I got to get back to doing what I'm called to do. I want to be a godly, righteous woman. I want what I do to matter on this earth. I want to leave a legacy. I want to just be effective. I believe that we can have a whole new community if our community were to get on the same page. When I watch these meetings, I see a lot of people come out and they're in their role. You know, this is their jam. James Chafee, I love you, man. You go out there and you give it to that board of supervisors. What'd you do with our law library? You took our law library away, and you've appointed 3 people in a position. The dots are all laid out for the corruption. Okay. It's all laid out. And every time one of us comes with some truth, we get to connect that dot a little bit, just a little bit. And the picture is becoming more and more clear as everybody brings their part. And today, I'm going to leave you with the end of my reading today was about all of our body parts, and how we all have different parts to play. And let's see. Let me get a version I like here. Don't judge me on my version. Let's see, was it 15 or 16? We're talking about body parts. We're all one body, but we all have our own part to play, And it's funny when you hear the Bible talking about, well, why should the foot can't be a whole foot by itself? I think it was, did I leave off on 17? Maybe it's 16. And it could be 14 because I read three chapters this morning. No, I think it's 14. Must have been 14. But it's such a fun read. I love reading about the spiritual gifts. Yep, the Bible's got it all. And I will say this too. Mr. Mann was telling me in the video yesterday, what was the number one book quoted, or the number one person or book quoted by the founders? It was the Bible. And the number two guy was Montesquieu. All right, let's read this. And then I'm going to head out. And I just pray, you guys, that no weapon formed against you stand. The Lord bless you and keep you. Lord, make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto thee and give you peace. 1 Corinthians 14. This is right after the love chapter about love. Love is patient. Love is kind. We've all heard that at almost every wedding. But this is right after that. Pursue love and desire spiritual gifts, but especially that you may prophesy. For he who speaks in tongues does not speak to God, but to men, but to God, for no one understands him. However, in the spirit, he speaks mysteries. But he who prophesies speaks edification and exhortation and comfort to all men. He who speaks in tongues edifies himself, and he who prophesies edifies the church. I wish you all spoke with tongues, but even more that you prophesied. For he who prophesies is greater than he who speaks with tongues, unless indeed he interprets, that the church may receive edification. Oh, I wanted to start further down, but I'll just read the whole thing, because we love the word around here. Where did I go? But now, brethren, if I come to you speaking with tongues, what shall I profit you unless I speak to you either by revelation, by knowledge, by prophesying, or by teaching? Even things without life, whether flute or harp, when they make a sound, unless they make a distinction in the sounds, how will it be known what is piped or played? For if the trumpet makes an uncertain sound, who will prepare himself for battle? So likewise you, unless you utter by the tongue words easy to understand, how will it be known what is spoken? For you will be speaking into the air. There are, it may be, so many kinds of languages in the world, and none of them is without significance. Therefore, I do not know the meaning of the language. I shall be a foreigner to him who speaks, and he who speaks will be a foreigner to me. Even so, you, since you are zealous for spiritual gifts, let it be for the edification of the church that you seek to excel. Therefore, let him who speaks in a tongue pray that he may interpret. For if I speak in a tongue, my spirit prays, but my understanding is unfaithful. What is the conclusion then? I will pray with the spirit. I will also pray with the understanding. I will sing with the spirit, and I will sing with the understanding. Otherwise, if you bless with the spirit, how will he who occupies the place of the uninformed say amen at your giving of thanks, since he does not understand what you say? For you indeed give thanks well, but the other is not edified. I thank my God I speak with tongues more than you all. Yet in the church I would rather speak 5 words with my understanding than I may teach others than 10,000 words in a tongue. Brethren, do not be children in understanding. However, in malice be babes, but in understanding be mature. In the law it is written, with men of other tongues and other lips I will speak to this people, and yet for all that they will not hear me, says the Lord. Therefore tongues are for a sign, not to those who believe, but to unbelievers. But prophesying is not for unbelievers, but for those who believe. Therefore, if the whole church comes together in one place and all speak with tongues, and there come in those who are uninformed or unbelievers, will they not say that you are out of your mind? But if all prophecy and an unbeliever or an uninformed person comes in, he is convinced by all. He is convicted by all. And thus the secrets of his heart are revealed. And so falling down on his face, he will worship God and report that God is truly among you. How is it then, brethren, whenever you come together, each of you has a psalm, has a teaching, has a tongue, has a revelation, has an interpretation? Let all things be done for edification. If anyone speaks in a tongue, let there be 2 or 3, each in turn, and let one interpret. But if there is no interpreter, let him keep silent in church, and let him speak to himself and to God. Did I not read the right one? We're reading it anyway. Let 2 or 3 prophets speak, and let the others judge. But if anything is revealed to another who sits by, let the first keep silent. For you can all prophesy one by one, that all may learn and be encouraged. And the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all the churches of the saints. Let your women keep silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak, but they are to be submissive, as the law also says. And if they want to learn something, let them ask their own husbands at home, for it is shameful for women to speak in church. Or did the word of God come originally from you, or was it only you that it reached? If anyone thinks himself a prophet or spiritual, let him acknowledge that the things which I write to you are in the commandments of the Lord. But if anyone is ignorant, let him be ignorant. Therefore, brethren, desire earnestly to prophesy and do not forbid to speak with tongues. Let all things be done in decency and in order. Yeah, that was the wrong one. That wasn't the one I really wanted to read. But I read 3 chapters and I thought I would be able to find it right away. But that's okay. We read a whole thing. I'm going to still find it here. I'm going to find it. It was the funny one about the foot. I don't know. Can't believe it. Apollos is mentioned in here. Well, I really blew that, but that's okay. Anytime we read the word, it's good. It doesn't matter. Y'all look for it yourself. It's between Corinthians 14 and maybe 18. But I really wanted to read about that foot thing. Yeah, I didn't finish out the chapter. I don't know. Maybe I read right over it. I mean, I tend to do that. Sometimes I read emptily and I didn't even know what I just read. So anyway, I love y'all. Thank you for being here. Yep, D-Dog's mom. We are praying for his mama. Keep doing that, please. You lost internet connection. Oh, I could try to send it to you in on your phone if you like, sweetheart. Thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate you. You help make this a lot more fun when you're here. It's way more fun than just talking to myself. And all of you who watch later, thank you. I appreciate you. I pray that you are able to connect the dots for your own community. I really hope that you are looking at what's going on in your community. And I'll be back soon to talk about what's going on in these meetings in Humboldt County. Thank y'all. Peace out. See you on the next one.